There comes a moment when the life you knew simply stops fitting. Not because you failed, but because the ground itself has shifted beneath you. Maybe it was a job that ended, a person who left, a dream that unraveled quietly while you were busy surviving. You keep trying to redraw the old map, but the lines don't match anymore. If that's you, pause for a breath. And before you forget this feeling, write these 6 words somewhere can see. I'm ready to build what's waiting. Because maybe you're not being punished. Maybe you're being prepared for a season that asks for a different kind of seed. I once met a farmer who taught me more about starting over than any book or speech ever could. He lived on a wide stretch of land in the Midwest. Flat fields, open sky, a river that shimmered like glass in the morning. For years he grew corn, wheat, and soybeans. His life was steady, predictable, the kind of rhythm that makes a man feel safe. But one summer, the river rose. At first it was a trickle over the banks, then a flood. By the time the waters receded, everything he had planted was gone, drowned in mud and silence. When I found him months later, his land looked like a wound. The barns were empty, the soil cracked. He was sitting on an overturned bucket, turning a single seed between his fingers. He said quietly, "I used to know every inch of this land. I had a map in my head, every ridge, every ditch, but now it's gone. The river took it." Then he looked up, and there was something steady in his eyes. "Maybe it's time," he said, "to plant something new, something I don't already understand." That was the year he stopped growing crops. He began planting herbs, small, strange, stubborn plants he'd never grown before. Lavender, thyme, sage. Everyone thought he'd lost his mind. But 3 years later, those herbs had taken root in the same soil that once broke his heart. When I visited him again, the air smelled of mint and earth. He said, "I didn't rebuild what I lost. I built what was waiting." That sentence became a compass for me. Don't rebuild what you lost. Build what's waiting. We spend so much of life trying to redraw old maps. We cling to what was, the plans, the certainty, the comfort of knowing what comes next. But sometimes the map isn't lost by accident. Sometimes it's taken from us because we were never meant to stay on that road. When I talk to people about change, I often meet those who say, "If I just had a plan again, I'd be fine." But I've come to believe that the moment you lose the plan is often the first honest moment of your life. Because when there's no script, you finally meet the person who has to improvise. Yourself. I remember a woman I once met. Her name was Melissa. She'd been married for 22 years when her husband left. Her world collapsed overnight. She said, "I keep reaching for the map, the one that used to tell me who I was. Wife, mother, partner. Now I'm nothing." She looked at me and said, "I can't even find north anymore." I told her about the farmer, how he stopped trying to rebuild the field exactly as it was. He learned the land again, its new slopes, its new shadows. He walked it barefoot until he felt its shape change beneath his feet. Melissa started walking every morning, not far, just around her block. She said, "It feels pointless, but maybe I need to know my new ground." A few months later, she began volunteering at a community garden. She found herself planting herbs, the same kind I'd told her about. One morning she wrote to me, "I thought I'd lost my direction. Turns out, I just needed to start moving without it. That's the courage I want to talk about tonight. Not the loud, cinematic kind of courage that makes headlines, but the quiet kind that whispers, "I'll begin again, even if I don't know how." There's a strange comfort in certainty. We plan our lives like we're mapping a familiar trail. Career, relationships, dreams. And when something wipes that map clean, we panic. But think about it. When was the last time a map showed you who you are? Maps can tell you where to go, but only motion tells you who you're becoming. The farmer told me once that after the flood, he tried for months to repair his old fences. He'd work all day rebuilding the same lines the water had erased, but every storm that came undid his effort. Finally, he laughed and said, "I think the land's trying to tell me it's not the same anymore. Maybe I should stop treating it like it is." That was the day he stopped fighting and started listening. He stopped seeing the flood as punishment. He started seeing it as permission. And that made me wonder, how many of us are stuck, not because life has ended, but because we're still arguing with what's already changed. We keep saying, "This isn't fair. This wasn't the plan." But the plan doesn't care. The river doesn't care. The map doesn't care. Only you can decide whether to stand in the mud or plant something new. I remember another man, a business owner who lost everything when the economy crashed. He told me, "I feel like my identity's been stolen. I don't even know what I'm for anymore." I said, "Maybe that's your chance to find out." He stared at me like I was out of my mind, but a year later he called. He'd started teaching small business owners how to handle failure. He said, "I never planned this, Dale. It's not what I dreamed of, but it feels right." He'd stopped chasing the old map of success, the one drawn by profit and pride, and started following the compass of usefulness. That's the gift hidden in every loss. It strips away the noise and leaves you with what's real. Failure doesn't erase your path, it redraws it, in a language only you can read. But you have to be brave enough to read it. When the farmer planted his first herbs, he didn't know if they'd survive. He told me, "I just wanted to see something grow again, anything." Then he added, "I figured if the earth still takes seed, maybe I can still take hope." That's how all new beginnings start. Not with clarity, but with courage. Sometimes people ask me, "How do you find direction after you lose everything?" And I tell them, you don't. You make it. You take one step, then another, and slowly a pattern appears, not ahead of you, but behind you. The path is always visible in hindsight, never in foresight. That's why courage matters more than confidence. Confidence waits for evidence. Courage moves without it. When I was younger, I used to think success was about control, making sure every detail lined up with my plans. But life has a way of teaching humility. You can plan the soil, the seed, the season, and still lose it all overnight. You can love perfectly and still be left alone. You can prepare endlessly and still fail. And that's not cruelty. That's life reminding us that our worth isn't in our maps. It's in our motion. Let me tell you about one more person, a young athlete named Jonah. He was training for the national trials when an injury ended his career overnight. He said to me, "If I'm not an athlete, then who am I?" That's the question we all face eventually. When a title, a dream, or a role falls away, what's left? I told him, "You're not what you do. You're what you build when what you did is gone." He looked skeptical, but he began volunteering as a coach for children with disabilities. Months later, he wrote to me, "I used to chase speed. Now I chase smiles. I think I like this race better." There's something sacred about starting over. It's humbling, it's quiet. It forces you to rebuild, not from memory, but from meaning. And that's where real growth begins. The farmer once told me that when he planted his first herbs, he was terrified to hope again. Every morning he'd walk out to the field to see if the shoots had survived the night. "Some days," he said, "I couldn't tell if they were growing or dying." I asked him what kept him going. He said, "Because I decided that even if they never grew, I'd rather be the man who plants than the man who mourns." That's the courage to begin again, not because you're sure it'll work, but because you're sure it's worth trying. If you're listening to this and you feel lost, if the plan you built has fallen apart, I want you to know something. You haven't failed. You've been freed. The river might have washed away your old map, but maybe that's because it was time for you to draw your own. So don't rush to rebuild. Don't try to force what's already gone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand still and listen, because the ground will always tell you where to plant next. The farmer once told me that after the flood, he kept a small notebook in his pocket. He called it his map of losses, but he didn't use it to mourn what was gone. He used it to understand what remained. He said, "I wrote down everything I lost, every fence, every seed, every tool. And next to each, I wrote one thing I learned from losing it." He turned pain into information, grief into instruction. That's where his rebuilding began, and that's where yours can begin too. Practice 1. The map of losses. Take a piece of paper and draw 2 columns. On the left, write down what you've lost, the plans, the people, the versions of yourself that are gone. On the right, write what each loss might be teaching you. Don't rush to make it positive. Just be honest. You might write, "Job taught me my value is bigger than a title." Relationship taught me love can't fix what honesty avoids. Dream taught me identity isn't tied to outcomes. It's not an exercise in optimism, it's an act of clarity. Because when you name what's gone and what it gave you, you stop being haunted by it. You start harvesting it. Melissa, the woman I told you about earlier, did this herself. She sat one night with a notebook and wrote every loss from the past 2 years. When she read it back, she said, "It looked like a graveyard." But as she filled in the second column, something changed. Her hand shook at first, then her words softened. She wrote, "Lost my marriage. Learned I can live alone and still be whole. Lost my map. Learned how to walk by feel." Later she told me, "I thought I was keeping a record of endings. Turns out, I was writing a manual for beginning again." I've met so many people who think courage means charging forward. But sometimes courage is just turning around and facing what broke you, not to fix it, but to learn its language. That's what the map of losses does. It gives pain a direction. The farmer said, "Once I knew what the flood had taken, I could finally see what it had given. New soil, rich and strange. Not better, not worse, just new. He smiled. I realized the land didn't betray me, it just changed shape. And so he changed with it. There's a quiet kind of freedom that comes when you stop needing your old life to come back. Because that's when you finally meet the one that's arriving. And to meet that new life, you need one more thing. Something tangible, visible, alive. A marker that says, I've started again. Practice 2. The visible marker. After the flood, the farmer planted a single row of lavender. He said, I needed to see something that belonged to the future. That row became his visible marker, proof that the story hadn't ended, only shifted chapters. You need one too, not for motivation, but for memory. Maybe it's a journal entry dated today. Maybe it's cleaning out one drawer. Maybe it's sending one message that says, I'm ready to try again. Maybe it's walking to the edge of a field, taking a breath and saying aloud, I forgive myself. Whatever it is, make it visible. Make it real enough to touch. Because beginnings are fragile things. If you don't give them form, they vanish in the fog of thought. I remember the businessman I mentioned, the one who lost everything. After our talk, he told me, I'm going to mark my new beginnings somehow. He bought a small wooden sign for his empty office. It read, This place grows lessons, not profits. He hung it crooked on the wall, smiled, and said, There, now it's official. A year later, that same office was full of young entrepreneurs, not learning how to avoid failure, but how to use it. That little sign was his lavender row. When you lose your plan, you need a physical reminder that motion still exists. A visible marker is like a promise to yourself. I'm still moving, even if I don't know where. It doesn't matter what shape it takes, it matters that it's yours. Jonah, the athlete, found his visible marker in a small, unexpected way. He framed his old running shoes, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of where he started. He wrote on the frame, Speed fades, spirit stays. Every time he coached a child who struggled, he'd point to that frame and say, See those shoes? They remind me that beginnings often wear the clothes of endings. So, what will your marker be? You don't have to decide now, but when you do, let it be something that feels alive. A step, a symbol, a start. Now there's one final practice, simple, but perhaps the most powerful of all. It's the one that turns regret into gratitude, and endings into compost for growth. Practice 3. The list of gratitude for past experience. The farmer once told me that he thanked the flood every single year. I asked him why. He said, because without it, I'd still be growing corn and calling it destiny. That answer stunned me. He didn't thank the pain for happening. He thanked it for revealing what was next. And you can do the same. Sit down one evening, no music, no distractions, and write a list of gratitude for past experience. Not just for the good things, but for the hard ones too. I'm grateful for the job that ended. It taught me to create my own work. I'm grateful for the heartbreak. It taught me what tenderness costs. I'm grateful for the failure. It taught me that I'm stronger than my plans. Gratitude doesn't mean approval. It means integration. It's how you weave pain back into wholeness. Melissa wrote hers on small scraps of paper and buried them in her garden. She said, I figured the earth knows what to do with these better than I do. The next spring, her herbs grew thicker than before. She laughed and said, "Maybe the soil just liked my honesty." Jonah kept his gratitude list folded in his wallet. He said he looked at it whenever he felt like his life had gone off course. "It reminds me," he said, "that detours are still movement." And that's what life really is, a series of detours disguised as disasters. When you thank your past, you reclaim it. When you stop wishing it were different, you free yourself to live the version that's next. That's how courage works. It's not roaring ahead, it's walking calmly through uncertainty, carrying your lessons instead of your losses. I went back to visit the farmer one last time. His fields were full now, rows of herbs shimmering in the afternoon light. He handed me a sprig of rosemary and said, "Smell that." I did. It was fresh, sharp, alive. He smiled. That's what beginnings smell like, the earth remembering it can still grow. We sat quietly for a while. He told me he still kept the old map of his farm, framed, mud-stained, torn at the edges. "I keep it," he said, "not to follow it, but to remind myself where I stopped pretending I was in control." Then he said something I will never forget. "The flood didn't ruin me, it revealed me." Maybe that's what life does when our plans fall apart. It doesn't end the story. It pulls back the curtain and says, "Now show me who you really are." And if you can answer that call, not with certainty, but with sincerity, you'll find that beginning again isn't a return, it's a revelation. So here's what I hope you'll remember. Draw your map of losses. Write down what's gone and what it taught you. Don't fix it, just see it. Create your visible marker. Do one physical act that declares your new beginning. Write your list of gratitude for past experience. Thank what hurt you for making you wiser, deeper, more compassionate. If you do these 3 things, you'll realize something beautiful. You don't need a perfect plan to move forward. You just need a little courage and a reason that matters more than your fear. Because the truth is, maps fade, rivers rise, plans crumble. But courage renews itself every morning. It wakes up with you, whispering, "Let's see what we can grow today." The farmer's land still floods every few years, but he doesn't fear it anymore. He said, "When the water comes, I know it's just rearranging the garden for me." Maybe that's the best way to live. Not fighting the storms, but trusting that they too are part of the planting. If you've lost your way, remember this. You don't have to find the old road. You're building a new one with every step. And someday, when you look back, you'll see that the path you feared walking was the one that led you home. So start small. Take one step. Plant one seed, write one line, say one honest thank you. That's how maps are redrawn, not in ink, but in action. Tomorrow morning, when the sun rises and you wonder what to do next, think of that farmer standing in his empty field. He didn't wait for permission. He picked up a seed, and because he did, the world grew a little more fragrant, a little more alive. You can do the same. You don't need to know the whole road. You just need the courage to begin again, without the map. My friend, if you've made it this far, then somewhere deep inside you, something still believes in beginning again. And that's enough. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing. Because every time you start again, you tell the world and yourself, that life is still worth trusting, even when it's quiet, even when it's unclear, even when it hurts. So tonight, before you close your eyes, take one deep breath. Feel your chest rise. Feel the air move through you. That's life, still flowing, still offering you another sunrise. And tomorrow, when you wake, you'll have a choice: to look back at what you lost, or to look forward to what's waiting. Choose forward, because beginnings don't ask for certainty, they ask for honesty. And honesty, spoken softly, is how every new life begins. So go on, step into the morning with your empty hands, your open heart, and that quiet courage the world so deeply needs. Plant something new in your work, in your words, in your kindness. Because every time you do, you remind all of us that no flood, no ending, no loss can wash away the simple truth. We can always begin again.